For 6 seasons, we followed the meteoric rise of Tommy Shelby, the cunning gangster, the ruthless businessman, the tortured soul. But where did it all lead? The Peaky Blinders finale left many fans questioning Tommy's true fate. Did he really escape the clutches of his past, or was he destined to repeat the cycle of violence?
On a gathering storm comes a tall, handsome man in a dusty black coat with a red right hand.
In this video, we'll dissect the ending and offer shocking insights you might have missed. By the end, you'll have a clear understanding of Tommy's fate and whether he truly outsmarted the devil himself. But before that, click that red subscribe button and stay with me until the end of the video. Britain's Peaky Blinders is an exciting crime show that takes you on a wild ride through Birmingham after World War I. Created by Stephen Knight, the show revolves around the notorious Peaky Blinders gang and their cunning leader Tommy Shelby, portrayed by the talented Cillian Murphy. Alongside Murphy, the series boasts an ensemble cast featuring Helen McCrory, Paul Anderson, Sophie Rundle, and Joe Cole, among others. In the years after the First World War, Peaky Blinders explores the seedy side of Birmingham in the 1910s and 1920s. Sam Neill plays Major Chester Campbell, a police chief inspector whose job it is to bring order back to the city by any means necessary, and he becomes interested in the gang's rise to power. Around the show's beginning, Tommy Shelby and his friends plan to take over the betting areas at the Worcester races on what they call Black Star Day. As the story goes on, we see the Peaky Blinders move into new areas in Birmingham and elsewhere. From the streets of Birmingham to the racetracks of Epsom and the busy city of London, the show takes fans on an exciting trip through the world of crime. As the seasons go on, we see Tommy Shelby and his friends deal with rival gangs, dishonest government officials, and political opponents in the dangerous world of organized crime. As each season passes, the Peaky Blinders try to hold on to power while dealing with their inner demons. From the start of the New York Mafia to the rise of fascists in Europe, Peaky Blinders looks at many different historical events and themes and weaves them into a very interesting story. As the 6th and final season starts, Tommy Shelby faces his biggest problem yet: the United States. Prohibition ends, and in Europe, fascism is a big threat. The Peaky Blinders must work together again to protect their kingdom and secure their historical place as tensions rise and old enemies come back to life. With only 6 episodes to wrap up the series, the final season of Peaky Blinders had a lot riding on it. And boy, did it deliver. In the finale, we finally got the real answers to little Ruby's vision of the Green-Eyed Man, and we saw the epic showdown between Michael and Tommy, just as Aunt Polly predicted at the end of Season 5. While not every storyline has a tidy resolution, the stage for the next chapter in the Shelby saga with the promised spin-off movie is set. And let me tell you, the Shelbys aren't finished yet, both in the world of the show and beyond the screen. In the latest season of Peaky Blinders, they dialed up the symbolism, especially in the final episode. Tommy Shelby, who's usually pretty skeptical, starts getting into deep stuff about the supernatural. Even though he's been through a ton, his faith in himself and his way of doing things gets a big boost in the finale. Much is going on in that ending, just like in all of Tommy's plans. Let's talk about the roller coaster, which was the last episode of Peaky Blinders Season 6. Tommy Shelby, our fearless leader, was facing a death sentence with that tuberculoma diagnosis hanging over him. But you know Tommy, he's not one to just sit around waiting to die. Legacy is everything to him, so he decides to take matters into his own hands and end his life on his own terms. But just when you think you've got Tommy all figured out, bam! Plot twist. The whole diagnosis was a hoax orchestrated by none other than his own doctor, Dr. Holford. And get this, the docs are in cahoots with Oswald Mosley, pulling the strings to make Tommy off himself. So there's Tommy, ready to take revenge on the doctor for lying to him about his health. But then another twist. Tommy has a moment, a vision of his daughter Ruby. Now, Tommy had already sorted out his affairs, ensuring his business and legacy were in good hands. But then, out of nowhere, Ruby shows up, and everything changes. He realizes he's been played, and instead of seeking revenge, he chooses peace. It's like he's been reborn, shedding the weight of his past and embracing a new beginning. Ruby leads him to this fire, where he finds a newspaper, one he'd used as kindling earlier. But get this, he hadn't actually read it yet. And lo and behold, the paper reveals the truth about his doctor's shady dealings with Mosley. Tommy learns all this from a vision, which means Ruby's appearance can't just be chalked up to his imagination. It's like she's really there, guiding him towards the truth from beyond the grave. So, what does this all mean? Well, for starters, it adds a whole new layer of mystery to Tommy's world. It's like the lines between reality and the supernatural are starting to blur, and Tommy's caught right in the middle of it. And that line he drops about being back from underground? A genius. It's a nod to his experiences in World War I, a symbol of survival against all odds. Tommy Shelby may have faced death head-on, but in the end he emerges stronger than ever, ready to take on whatever life throws his way. And after 6 seasons of keeping us guessing, Peaky Blinders finally revealed that all those spooky supernatural happenings were real. Every vision, every prophecy, every ghost story, it was all real. Now, this changes everything. See, up until now, there was always this question lingering in the background. Were Tommy's visions just a product of his PTSD? Or maybe the so-called curse that haunted him was just a way to make sense of his own trauma? Nope, turns out ghosts are real in Peaky Blinders. Not only that, but they're keeping up with the latest news, reading newspapers and all. Of course, there's still room for doubt. Maybe Tommy had seen that newspaper earlier while he was drunk and feeling guilty. And maybe his daughter's appearance was just his mind's way of coping, a reminder to keep fighting instead of giving up. Either way, it's a game changer for the show. Suddenly, anything seems possible in the world of Peaky Blinders. Now, the question is, how does Tommy know about the plan to kill him and Billy's fraud? See, even though it seemed like Tommy was losing his grip on reality and his business, he was ahead of the curve. He knew about Billy's betrayal all along. That's why Arthur forced Billy to off the football referee. It wasn't just a test, it was a punishment. Tommy wanted to condemn him to hell for his treachery. Now, how did Tommy figure it out? Well, it's a bit murky, but the Shelbys pieced it together through a process of elimination. Finn Shelby's sidelining throughout the season hinted that he let something slip, and when Billy started slipping down the pecking order, it was clear Tommy knew he'd spilled the beans about the plan to off Mosley. But the whole football betting scam? That was just a distraction. It kept Billy and his handler busy while Tommy and the gang were off doing their real business. So while it might have seemed like Tommy was caught off guard, he was pulling the strings the whole time. Now, what exactly did Tommy Shelby whisper to Duke at the final Shelby banquet? During Tommy's last gathering with the family, he divvies up his final instructions for the business and the family's future. But when it comes to his own son, Duke, Tommy keeps his words close to his chest, whispering them into Duke's ear in a moment packed with meaning. Now, given Duke's journey throughout Peaky Blinders Season 6, it seems like Tommy is grooming him to be his true successor, not just in terms of inheriting the Shelby empire and wealth, but also carrying on Tommy's legacy as the family's shadier power broker. It's like Tommy is passing the torch to Duke, entrusting him with the family's darker dealings. Despite their recent connection, Tommy's choice to whisper to Duke signifies that he sees Duke as his favored child in Ruby's absence. It sets up an interesting dynamic, especially with Charlie in the picture. Tommy's reluctance to corrupt Charlie, his righteous son, suggests that he sees Duke as the one who's more like him and better suited to take over his mantle. Also, in the end, we have 2 family conflicts. First, we've got Finn Shelby, who was notably absent from the final family gathering. He's got some serious beef with his nephew Duke after attempting to take him out during the whole Billy debacle. Finn's thirst for revenge sets the scene for a showdown within the family that could escalate into an all-out war. And let's face it, family feuds in the Shelby clan rarely end well. But that's not all. Another potential clash is brewing between Duke and Charlie, Tommy's other son. These two represent opposite sides of Tommy's complex character, and the relationship could easily turn sour. While Charlie may have left with his mother by the end of the finale, there's already some deep-seated resentment brewing within him. And with Duke seemingly being groomed as Tommy's successor, the stage is set for some serious sibling rivalry. The tough truth about Tommy Shelby's fate is that it's tied up with real history, thanks to his Season 6 enemies like Jack Nelson and Oswald Mosley. Jack's story is based on Joseph Kennedy, and we know how his story ends. The same goes for Mosley, a real-life figure. He stuck around until 1980, and Kennedy lived until 1969. So unless Peaky Blinders does a wild Tarantino-style rewrite of history, Tommy's not getting closure on those fronts in a World War II set spin-off movie. But there's still some wiggle room for the writers to play with. Even though the show usually sticks close to real events, they could take some creative liberties. The new upcoming movie may start with Mosley's downfall, and Tommy's pulling the strings behind the scenes, fighting him politically and stirring up opposition to his rallies. It would be a way for Tommy to keep fighting, even from beyond the grave. So in the final moments of Peaky Blinders Season 6, Tommy Shelby might finally be catching a break. His son and Arthur are holding down the fort with the family business. His legitimate ventures are booming, and Ada's all set to take over his political seat. Tommy could just walk away from it all, right? But no, he hints to Arthur that he's not done yet. It seems like he's driven by a new mission, doing good. Tommy's been playing with fire his whole life, but now he's talking about building affordable housing and standing up to fascists on principle. Could he be turning into some kind of underground hero? He may team up with Churchill or even head back to the front lines in Europe. And let's not forget about Alfie Solomon's cryptic advice about the perks of being dead. Tommy's watching his funeral pyre feels like a symbol of him shedding his past and fears. Plus, offing Michael means he's not sweating Polly's prophecy anymore. But Tommy's no saint. He's owned up to his lust for power and the shady deals that came with it. Mosley's still breathing down his neck, and Arthur's struggling with his demons. Even if Tommy thinks of disappearing briefly, something tells me he won't stay buried for long. After all, as they say, Tommy Shelby is dead. Long live Tommy Shelby. So that was all about the Peaky Blinders TV series and its ending. All we can do now is wait for the movie to come out, which is currently in the works and due to be an epic finale of the franchise as a whole. Share your opinions too with us in the comment section below and subscribe to the channel. See you with another exciting video.